The top stories tonight in Y News. The Department of Health vaccination teams aim to inoculate 300 persons per day per vaccination site.
Filipinos cannot choose which specific brand of COVID-19 vaccine they want to receive under the government's free COVID-19 vaccination drive, according to Malacanang.
Senators asserted that the Food and Drug Administration should allow the private sector and local government units to procure COVID-19 vaccines from manufacturers. The Philippine government admits that there was a post-holiday surge in the number of COVID-19 cases in the country, but assured that it is manageable.
Jonel Duesca, the police officer who fatally shot his neighbors, has been dismissed from service effective today.
Philippine National Police Chief General de Bolsinas has ordered separate inquiry on the possible lapses committed by the Makati City Police in handling the case of the death of flight attendant Christine Angelica Dasira. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, January 11, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III presented in the Senate Committee of the Whole the vaccination plan once COVID-19 vaccines will be available in the country. The government has set more than 4,000 vaccination sites for the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. The health chief said there will be 3 vaccination teams each site. A number of people will be vaccinated per day.
To be exact, it's 4,512 delivery sites for vaccination. And each one will have 3 vaccination teams. Each team will have 6 members. It's 300 per day.
300
per vaccination site.
Part of the vaccination plan, recipients will be monitored whether they will manifest adverse events or side effects after being vaccinated.
Ang mga pasyenteng ito ay magkakaroon ng sariling QR code at unique identifier na ipakikita sa araw ng pagbabakuna. Sa pamamagitan nito, atin pong i-monitor ang mga pasyente na nabakunahan ng first and second dose.
7 pharmaceutical companies have committed to supply COVID-19 vaccines in the country, according to Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. The country will spend 82.5 billion pesos for 148 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Secretary Galvez also said supply of vaccines will depend on the amount manufacturers can give depending on each country's demand.
We are very surprised that the vaccine makers are very, very generous na talagang they're very, very fair to us. Alam nila na pagka mahirap ka ng country, may special allocation po tayo. But now that we have now on the final stage of our negotiation, lumaki po ang volume ng 148.
With the said amount and number of vaccines, the government targets to vaccinate 50 to 70 million Filipinos this 2021. 35 million Filipinos aged 18 to 59 years are prioritized to receive COVID-19 vaccines. WHO Country Representative Dr. Rabindra Abiyasing explained why this age bracket is advisable to receive COVID-19 vaccines.
It has not been tried out in children less than 16 years. For 2 reasons. One was the fact that the incidence of the disease was very low in children, and so they were not prioritized. So there will be further research happening in the future when it will be clear whether children should be vaccinated or not. But at this point of time, we are not clear on that.
Secretary Galvez reported that Pfizer and COVAX are set to provide 40 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Novavax is also expected to supply some 40 million doses. AstraZeneca, Sinovac, and Gamaleya are prepared to sell 25 million doses each. COVID-19 vaccines may roll out next month once COVID-19 vaccines are delivered.
So meaning the indicative dates, it might fall early or delivery will be late by 1 week or 2 weeks. So to say, we will be having at the last or maybe last week of February.
Based on Food and Drug Administration's update, the emergency use authorization of Pfizer and AstraZeneca will be issued this month.
It's a product that we're using under emergency use. Pag ganun po, yung mga kumpanya, hindi rin po sila nagtitake ng responsibility para sa kanilang produkto. Ang national government po will take responsibility for using a product that is still under development. Kaya po hindi pa nila maaaring ibenta.
Meanwhile, yesterday, the Philippine government has secured 30 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine from Covovax Serum Institute of India. The agreement was signed on Saturday between Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. and the said institution. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte is set to meet with the members of his cabinet tonight. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said President Duterte rescheduled his weekly address to the nation to conduct the cabinet meeting. The president normally holds his weekly address on Monday, but moved it to Wednesday this week. The palace official did not give any information on the topics that will be discussed during the meeting. The president last convened his cabinet officials on December 14, 2020.
Mamayang gabi po, there will be a cabinet meeting. And the Talk to the People will be on Wednesday.
The government continues to secure more vaccines to immediately begin its inoculation program for millions of Filipinos. But as many people are skeptical about the safety of some vaccines, presidential spokesman Harry Roque explains that beneficiaries could either accept or decline the vaccine offered by the government. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The Philippines has secured 25 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines developed by Chinese firm Sinovac. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, the first 50,000 doses is set to arrive in the country in February. This is apart from the 15,000 doses that will be used for Sinovac's clinical trials in the country. Before 2021 ends, the government is eyeing for the arrival of 25 million doses of the Chinese vaccine. Earlier, the DOH said 2 brands of COVID-19 vaccines may arrive in the country next month. Apart from Sinovac, the Philippines had already signed deals for COVID-19 vaccines developed by the Serum Institute of India and British drug maker AstraZeneca. The government is also in talks with other vaccine makers, Sinopharm of China and the Gamaleya Institute of Russia. Meanwhile, Filipinos cannot choose which brand of vaccine they want to receive according to Malacanang. Based on Pulse Asia survey result, almost half of Filipinos do not want to be vaccinated due to safety concern.
Walang pilihan kasi hindi naman natin makokontrol talaga kung anong darating, no? At libre po ito, no? Pero ganun po yan. There is such a thing as waiver of a right. Totoo po. Meron tayong lahat karapatan para sa mabuting kalusugan, pero hindi naman po pwede na pihi ka, no? Dahil napakadaming Pilipino na dapat turukan.
The palace assures that even if the Sinovac vaccines arrives in the country, it should have an emergency use application approval from the Food and Drug Administration before public consumption. The palace also defended the use of Chinese vaccines. According to Roque, President Rodrigo Duterte cannot wait until July when most Western brands of COVID-19 vaccine will be available. The palace also mentioned about the possibility of President Duterte being inoculated with a Chinese vaccine.
There's nothing spectacular about Sinovac other than it's been proven safe and efficient, 91.5 in at least 3 jurisdictions, no, that we know of. At kung miski tatanungin niyo po yung mga expecto, yung mga vaccinologist, talagang inactivated po yan. Ibig sabihin, natural. Ito po yung pinahinang virus, which is the traditional vaccines that we have known for the past 300 years.
The palace also responded to the recommendation of Vice President Leni Robredo to have a proper communication plan for the inoculation program of the government. VP Robredo points out this will encourage more Filipinos to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
Yung suggestion niyo po, ginagawa na po ng gobyerno. In fact, lahat po ng dinidiscuss natin dito sa press briefing natin, kabahagi po yan ng communication plan. Kinakalat po ng ating mga kalaban na matakot dapat sa mga vaccine ng Chino na kinakailangan Western brands lang, kaya pinapakita po natin na ang Chino po dumaan sa clinical trials sa iba't ibang bansa.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri disagrees with the statement of the palace on the Filipinos' choice of COVID-19 vaccines. In his press briefing today, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that Filipinos in the priority list of the government for the COVID-19 vaccines cannot be choosy on which COVID-19 vaccine brand they want to receive. According to Zubiri, it is an unfair assessment. The senator mentioned China's Sinovac as an example, where he cited that there is a news report in Indonesia saying that it does not have enough data on the vaccine's efficacy on elderly people.
So bakit natin pipilitin, for example, ang ating mga tatay at nanay, mga lolo at lola na mabigyan ng Sinovac na very clearly Indonesia mismo nagsasabi ay mukhang malabo ito para sa matatanda. Then we should give them Pfizer, we should give them Moderna or AstraZeneca.
The Philippine Red Cross or PRC begins today its pilot saliva testing for the coronavirus disease 2019, a faster and cheaper way to detect the infection. The PRC targets healthcare workers in collecting additional COVID-19 saliva tests. They also expect the health department to approve its use in the country. Asher Kadapan Jr. details why live. Asher, go ahead.
Diego, after submitting 238 samples of COVID-19 saliva tests, the Philippine Red Cross started to collect 1,000 additional samples today as required by the Department of Health. They target to get the samples from healthcare workers from 15 DOH hospitals, as they are the ones who regularly undergo swabbing for reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR tests for COVID-19. Here's an excerpt of the interview with Dr. Paulino Bial, the molecular laboratory head of the Philippine Red Cross.
For every 10 samples, may validation sa swab test. So yan po ang sisimulan namin ngayong araw, and hopefully maubos or ma-collect namin lahat yung 1,000 na requirement within the week.
Upon its submission, the concordance rate between the saliva test and the RT-PCR will be considered in its approval by the DOH. Although it still needs approval from the Food and Drug Administration, the organization is hopeful that the saliva test will be allowed to use in the country.
Countries po, mas mababa sa 200 yung tinesting nila, kagaya sa Australia, 100 lang po yung tinesting nila. Then after the test results came out na 87% nga po yung concordance sa Australia, ni-roll out na po nila.
Dr. Rabial further explains that if the saliva test will be approved, it will provide faster results for COVID-19 tests, which can be made available within just 12 hours, while RT-PCR takes about 24 hours or longer. Saliva test is also cheaper, ranging from 1,500 to 2,000 pesos compared to RT-PCR, which costs 4,000 pesos or more. Let's hear more from Dr. Rabial.
Hindi pa ho at risk yung ating mga healthcare workers sa collection kasi self-collection lang to. Hindi po inconvenient sa mga pasyente kasi hinuluwa lang yung laway sa isang sterile vial.
Diego, the saliva test is also expected to significantly help in intensifying the COVID-19 testing in the country, especially with the threat of the new COVID-19 variant that saliva test can also detect. Diego?
Thank you for that report. Asher Kadapan Jr. reporting live. Cases of coronavirus disease in the country grew to 489,736 as a total of 2,052 new confirmed cases were recorded today. The Department of Health said 10 patients recovered from the disease, taking the nationwide count of recoveries to 458,206. 11 fatalities were reported, bringing the death toll to 9,416. Davao City reported the highest number of new cases with 140, followed by Quezon City with 93, Cavite with 87, Laguna with 83, and Manila with 67. Active cases are at 22,114. Meanwhile, Malacanang has admitted that there is a post-holiday surge in the number of COVID-19 cases in the Philippines, but assured that it is manageable and the country remains capable of providing healthcare services to patients.
So hindi po natin talagang ikakaila na talagang nagkaroon tayo ng holiday surge dahil nag 1,900 po tayo, highest in 3 weeks if I'm not mistaken, kahapon pa lang po. No? Pero ang tingin ko naman po, magiging manageable yung pagtaas. Dahil ang importante naman po, handa tayong gamutin yung mga magkakasakit na seryoso dahil 60% pa po ang available natin sa ICU, sa ating mga isolation at sa ating mga hospital beds.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Several local government units have secured hundreds of thousands of COVID-19 vaccine doses with the United Kingdom's pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca. On the other hand, Malacanang again reiterates that the procurement of vaccines should be done through a tripartite agreement. Joan Nano tells us why.
Several local government units in Metro Manila have signed a tripartite deal with UK's pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines for their residents. Among these were the City of Manila, wherein Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso have announced that they have secured 800,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to be given to around 400,000 residents in Manila.
It's official. The City of Manila signed the official contract of what we call advanced marketing commitment with AstraZeneca that will come in the next months of this year. Nakabili na rin kami ng refrigeration. At narinig nyo rin kanina, we are building already the storage facility. So these are in line while we are waiting for the vaccine.
While Quezon City have disclosed that they have initially secured 1.1 million doses of vaccines also from AstraZeneca. However, Mayor Joy Belmonte says that Quezon City is still considering other brands of COVID-19 vaccines as long as it is approved and registered with the Food and Drug Administration.
Ang ating pong objective is of course to achieve herd immunity, and that means about 80% of our population kailangan natin bakunahan.
Makati City Mayor Abby Binay have also announced that they will be procuring 1 million doses of vaccines, and this will not only be given to the residents of Makati but also business owners who are operating within the city. Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian also confirmed that they have signed a deal with AstraZeneca for the purchase of 640,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to be inoculated to 320,000 recipients in their city. But residents who are 18 years old and below are prohibited to be vaccinated. Navotas City Mayor Toby Chanco also made an announcement through his official Facebook page that they have secured 100,000 doses of vaccines for 50,000 residents in Navotas. While Pasig City have allocated 100 million pesos fund for the procurement of 400,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines.
Itong vaccination program, una, dapat magtiwala tayo sa mga dalubhasa, sa mga eksperto. Pag sinabi nila na safe, pag sinabi nila na ligtas, mabisa ang isang bakuna, dapat maniwala po tayo. Magtiwala po tayo sa kanila, magtiwala po tayo sa siyensya.
Also, San Juan City and Muntinlupa City have announced through their social media accounts that they have signed a tripartite agreement with AstraZeneca. Aside from Metro Manila, there were also some LGUs in the provinces who have secured their COVID-19 vaccines, such as Ormoc City, which is expected to roll out their COVID-19 vaccines by July 2021, while Taal Batangas have allotted 10 million peso fund to secure 40,000 doses of vaccines. On the other hand, Malacanang says that LGU's initiative to procure their own COVID-19 vaccine is a welcome move for the national government, and again reiterates that deals should be done through a tripartite agreement involving the national government, local government, and the pharmaceutical company.
Nagpapasalamat po siyempre tayo sa LGUs kasi hindi na tayo dapat gumastos ng pondo ng pangnasyonal o hindi na tayo dapat umutang dahil sila na magbabayad ng bakuna para sa kanilang mga constituents. Pero tanging gobyerno lang po ang pwede makabili, kaya hindi po sila makakabili on their own. Kinakailangan pumasok po sa isang tripartite agreement.
Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Some senators have questioned the supposed lack of urgency on the part of the national government in securing the country with COVID-19 vaccine supply. During today's hearing on the Senate Committee of the Whole on the COVID-19 Vaccination Plan of the government, Senator Panfilo Lacson hit the Department of Health for allegedly not acting fast in signing the confidential disclosure agreement with pharmaceutical firm Pfizer. According to Lacson, it took 4 months before the agency, headed by Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, signed the CDA. He also questioned why it took the DOH 10 days before replying to the letter of Sinopharm in its intent to conduct clinical trials in the country.
25 to 26 persons or Filipinos per day ang namamatay since January last year. 1,300 yung na-infect daily. Hindi ba emergency yan? Wala bang sense of urgency?
That is why some senators have called on the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to allow local government units and the private sector to procure COVID-19 vaccines on their own to help in fast-tracking the vaccination of Filipinos. According to COVID-19 testing czar Secretary Vince Dizon, the pharmaceutical firms cannot sell their COVID-19 vaccines to private sector because they only have an emergency use authorization for the vaccine, and it is prohibited under Philippine laws to purchase unregistered vaccines.
The only way that a private company or an LGU can procure vaccines is through the national government, because the authority being issued by the FDA is only an emergency use authority, which essentially means that a private company such as AstraZeneca, Pfizer, etc. cannot sell on a commercial basis.
May I cut you, no?
Yes, po.
What's taking the government or the national government too long to act?
Sir,
if other countries can, why can't we?
Sir, I don't think it is unfair to say that the national government has taken too long.
FDA Director General Eric Domingo also said it is also a safety concern. He added that other countries also have their national government in leading their procurements and the vaccination program.
Ang Department of Health po, maaari naman niyang i-designate ang mga LGU or ang private sector to be part of the national vaccination program. Para po mababantayan natin, kasi titingnan po natin lahat ng magkaka-adverse event, lahat po ng may mangyayari dyan, kailangan very, very close monitoring po tayo.
Despite this, some lawmakers remain firm that the FDA should allow LGUs and the private sector to procure vaccines that would be able to secure an emergency use authorization from the FDA.
Bakit yung national government gusto i-monopolize yung pag-purchase? Bakit hindi na lang payagan directly na rin yung LGU at yung private sector?
Bakit po natin hindi papayagan ang private sector at LGU na sila mismo ang bumili kung sinasabi natin at least with the emergency use authorization, safe naman po ito sa ating mga kababayan. Sa katunayan, 70 milyon ng mga Pilipino ang bibigyan ng vaccination dahilan sa emergency use authorization.
Precisely, it's a whole-of-nation approach. So provide them the means, enable them, and then monitor them. and then have them report if provide timely reports on the immunization.
Vaccine SAR Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said they will also prioritize the LGUs that have no capacity to secure their own supply of vaccines. The Senate Committee of the Whole will have its second hearing on the government's COVID-19 vaccination plan on Friday.
In other news, Philippine National Police Chief Police General Debold Sinas has ordered a separate inquiry on the possible lapses committed by the Makati City Police in handling the case of the death of flight attendant Christine Angelica Dasira. The PNP chief also denied giving special attention to the family of the victim. Leia Ilagan explains why.
The Directorate for Investigation and Detective Management of the PNP were tasked to conduct a thorough investigation on the possible lapses committed by Makati City Police officers in handling the case of 23-year-old flight attendant Christine Angelica Dasira's death. The Makati City is being accused of bungling the case of Dasira when her body was embalmed before they conducted an autopsy, which, according to National Capital Region Police Office, NCRPO Director, Police Brigadier General Vicente Danao Jr., was part of their new protocol amid COVID-19.
To conduct a separate inquiry and recommend to us, not later than January 13, their findings on any liabilities of Makati police officers involved in the ongoing investigations of the Dasira Case.
Meanwhile, the NCRPO will file a case against the management of the City Garden Grand Hotel for not cooperating on the investigation.
So if you refuse to cooperate, we'll file a case of obstruction of justice sa inyo for withholding information which is very vital for the early solution of the case.
The SITG headed by the CIDG and NCRPO are still collating pieces of evidence, especially statements from key witnesses with regard to the Dasira case. Meanwhile, PNP Chief Sinas also denied giving VIP treatment to the case of Christine Dasira. According to Sinas, the PNP just extended their help as the colleagues of Christine in the Philippine Airlines wanted to pay their last respect for her and that the victim's family was not able to find a place for the last viewing.
Actually, wala namang VIP treatment. Yung dito, nag-offer kami ng space kasi nga yung mga PAL employees gusto nilang dumalaw. Before idalhin yung cadaver ni Miss Christine doon sa sa Jensen, ay wala po sila makuhang lugar. They just asked for 2 hours, 2 hours lang for viewing ng PAL employees. They asked for our assistance, so yun po ang ginawa namin. So konting request which we granted.
With regards to the burial of Christine, Sina cited Sharon, mother of the late flight attendant, over her connections with the military and police as a reservist. The Philippine Marine Corps further explained that the uniformed personnel present at the funeral rites of Christine Dasira in General Santos City were reservists requested by Christine's mother to assist, if needed, in security matter at the interment, including crowd control, amid concerns regarding COVID-19. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte has appointed former Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre the second as Commissioner of the National Police Commission for Napolcom. This has been confirmed by Malacanang. Aguirre will represent the private sector in Napolcom. The former Justice Secretary resigned from his post in 2018. This was after Malacanang said the President was displeased with the dismissal of drug charges against confessed drug dealer Rolando Kerwin Espinosa Jr., alleged drug lord Peter Lim, and more.
And And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Philippine National Police assures that Staff Sergeant Jonel Nuesca, the off-duty cop who was caught on video shooting to death his neighbors, will no longer receive benefits from the organization following his dismissal from service. Leah Ilagan reports why.
PNP Chief Police General Debold Sinas confirmed that Police Staff Sergeant Jonel Nuesca is now dismissed from the police service effective January 11, 2021. Sinas says Nuesca can no longer receive his benefits.
I'd like to announce that the admin case of Police Staff Sergeant Jonel M. Nuesca is already resolved, is meted the severest administrative penalty of dismissal from the police service effective today. The dismissal was already implemented by the Regional Director of NCRPO, Police Brigadier General Vic Danao Jr.
The PNP has recommended the CAP's dismissal due to the 2 counts of grave misconduct and 2 counts of conduct unbecoming of an officer, which is an administrative case. Central Luzon Police bared recently that Nuesca pleaded not guilty to murder charges filed against him. He is facing 2 counts of murder lodged at the Regional Trial Court Branch 67 of the same town.
As to the criminal case, ay ongoing na po yung criminal case.
The next hearing on his case is on February 4. Meanwhile, the Integrated Bar of the Philippines or IBP has lauded the PNP for taking prompt action in Nuesca's case. IBP National President Domingo Egon Gayosa said in a statement that speedy justice and making Nuesca accountable after due process is the more effective deterrence to crime and misconduct. Also helps restore the trust of the citizens in our police force and in our justice system. Leah Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Toll Regulatory Board or TRB has extended the grace period for implementation of 100% cashless transactions on expressways. TRB spokesperson Julius Corpus said they will extend the grace period indefinitely to give toll operators enough time to fix the radio frequency identification card system or RFID. Corpus said the grace period was supposed to end by January 11th, but will be further extended as transition period continues. This is also to give motorists who still don't have their RFID stickers enough time to register. While the RFID installation is ongoing, motorists with no RFIDs will not be apprehended and can still pay cash at toll.
And for the news abroad, here's Elsie Marcos reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand.
Good evening, William. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases has now reached more than 90 million in the world. This number, though, continues to increase with the new variants of COVID-19. Early Biones will tell us why. Live. Yes, Early.
Elsie, on Sunday, Johns Hopkins University revealed that since October, where COVID-19 cases only totaled to 45 million, has now increased by double that amount, tallying up to more than 90 million in the world. It was noted that the United States has topped the records ever since the outbreak began, accounting for 22.2 million cases. And following this is India, with approximately 10.5 million. The 90 million cases, however, is still increases, as the new variants, which are more transmissible and virulent, continue to infect many. As of now, it has taken the lives of 2 million people globally. This variant, which was first identified in Britain, has now been transmitted to the Russian population by a patient who arrived in the country. Russia has recorded more than 3.3 million COVID cases, with nearly 62,000 deaths. However, cases and deaths have gradually reduced since the new year. The list continues with France recording 2.8 million confirmed cases and 67,000 deaths. Italy also has nearly 19,000 additional cases, making the total cases of more than 2.2 million with a fatality of 79,000. Germany has recorded more than 1.9 million cases with 41,000 deaths. Fortunately, Chancellor Angela Merkel advised the nation that mass vaccination will continue to be administered and has begun since December last year. Israel has recorded 489,000 confirmed cases and has had nearly 4,000 deaths. However, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine has already been administered to 20% of the population, and also the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. India, meanwhile, crossed 150,000 deaths last Tuesday, becoming the third nation to reach the grim milestone. The South Asian nation has approved 2 COVID-19 vaccines and will start its vaccination drive from January 16, with priority given to about 30 million healthcare workers and frontline workers. Elsie?
Thank you, Early, for that report, live from Australia. U.S. President Donald Trump remains defiant amid intensifying impeachment plans and social media bans. Marvin Delphine will give us the details live. Marvy?
Elsie, in his final 10 days of presidency, Donald Trump has no plans of resigning despite isolation and calls for impeachment even from some of his former allies and members of his own party. Despite Trump's efforts to highlight his policy accomplishments during his administration, support for the House drive to impeach Trump is gaining momentum as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi warned that the outgoing president is a threat to democracy. Pelosi made an announcement late Sunday in a letter to colleagues, saying the House will first vote to push Vice President Mike Pence and cabinet officials to invoke the powers of the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. After 24 hours, the House would proceed with legislation on impeachment, and Trump could become the only president to be impeached twice in American modern history, and he could now be stripped of his ability to run for any government position. Trump has not taken any responsibility for his role in inciting last Wednesday's violence, but according to a news poll, at least 2/3 of respondents said he deserves a good amount or a great deal of blame for the riots at the Capitol that left 5 people dead. Over half of Americans also believe that Trump should be removed from office before his term ends, as he has been largely absent from his presidential duties since he lost the election. Even as the coronavirus situation continues to worsen in the U.S., Trump continues to campaign conspiracies about mass voter fraud and lash out against social media companies that have indefinitely banned him from voicing out his opinions on the online platforms. While many have criticized Trump, Republicans have said that impeachment would be more divisive in a time where unity is needed. Jason Miller, Trump's close advisor, noted that if the impeachment was to be moved forward, the Democrats risk turning public sentiment against them and impeding Biden's agenda by continuing to focus on Trump even after he has left the White House. But the House Democrat strategy was to condemn Trump's action swiftly but delay an impeachment trial in the Senate for 100 days to allow for President-elect Joe Biden to focus on other priorities as soon as he is inaugurated on January 20. Elsie?
All right, Marvy, thank you for that live report. Experts are concerned by the slow rollout of sometimes unused COVID-19 vaccine in some health facilities in the United States. Miguel Rey de Leon explains why.
Only 6.7 million people in the United States of America so far have received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, according to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. This number is out of more than 22 million doses that have been distributed to health facilities, and too far from the target of 20 million vaccinations supposedly before 2020 ended. One reason for the slow rollout or unused vaccines is that it takes time to vaccinate and monitor large numbers of people, according to health experts. Likewise, some people in the priority groups, like the healthcare workers and long-term care facility residents, don't want the vaccine just yet. Thus, the federal government is urging states to give vaccines to those who are older or in higher risk groups. However, some are still focusing on the earliest priority groups. As of January 10, 2021, the total cases of the coronavirus disease in the US has reached more than 22,100,000, while total deaths reported are more than 371,000, according to the CDC. Miguel Rey de Leon, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
As Japan battles its third wave of coronavirus infections, support for the postponed Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympics hits a new low, a poll has found on Sunday. Mavian Dog will give us the details live. Yes, Maeve.
LC, just over 80% of those surveyed by Kyodo News Agency said that the games should be cancelled or postponed again, a 20% increase from a survey conducted by the same outlet last month. Over 1,000 participants for the survey were selected by random dialing on Sunday, of which 35% told Kyodo they are in favor of cancelling the event outrightly, and around 45% said it should be postponed a second time. Senior International Olympic Committee official Dick Proud said he could not be certain that games will go ahead due to the obvious challenge of the surge in coronavirus cases. On the other hand, Tokyo 2020 organizers are insisting for the games to proceed despite a state of emergency declared in the Greater Tokyo this week after a spike in COVID cases. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga also said in his New Year's reflection that Japan is dedicated to making steady preparations for a safe and secure Olympics that will not jeopardize the country's efforts to control the pandemic. He also believes that the public sentiment towards the Olympics will change once the country begins its vaccinations scheduled for late February. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Mavian Dog. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand.
And those are the reasons behind the news, January 11, 2021. I am Hardin Delgado, reporting live from the Senate.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.